The woman at 61 thought she was just opening the door for her son, but he collapsed on the porch and whispered a sentence that tore apart his perfect marriage. A dying plea led to fingerprints on a vitamin bottle, doorbell camera footage, and a carefully hidden insurance policy. When the truth was ripped open at the town's fundraising gala, the click of handcuffs became the final bell and the ultimate revenge. My name is Evelyn Mercer, and I was hemming a tablecloth when my son collapsed on my porch, whispering words that would expose a betrayal I never saw coming. The Oregon rain had been pattering against my windows all afternoon. That familiar September drizzle that makes everything smell like wet cedar and moss. I'd been sitting in my sewing room, the one my late husband Richard had converted from the spare bedroom 5 years before his heart attack. The needle slipped through the fabric in steady rhythm, a meditation I'd grown to depend on since becoming a widow. At 61, these small rituals kept me grounded. The doorbell rang. Once. Twice. Then a frantic succession that made me drop the fabric. Through 23 years of raising Aaron, I'd learned to distinguish between casual visits and emergencies. This wasn't casual. I rushed to the door, my reading glasses still perched on my nose, and yanked it open. Aaron stood there, swayed there, his face the colour of old dishwater. His work polo from Cedar Wave Solutions was soaked through with sweat despite the cool air. Before I could speak, his knees buckled. Aaron. I caught him as he pitched forward, my arms somehow finding strength I didn't know I possessed. We crashed together onto the wooden porch boards, his weight crushing my hip against the doorframe. His breathing came in shallow gasps, each one seeming to require tremendous effort. Mum. His hand gripped my wrist with surprising force, his wedding ring cutting into my skin. His eyes, usually so bright and focused like his father's, were glazed and wild. Mum, don't trust Lena. Check. In the locked drawer. What, Aaron? What's wrong? What about Lena? But his eyes rolled back, and his grip went slack. His head lolled against my shoulder, and I could barely feel his breath against my neck. My fingers fumbled for my phone in my cardigan pocket. 911. The numbers seemed impossibly small on the screen. My son collapsed. He's barely breathing. 47 Maple Avenue. Please hurry. The dispatcher's calm voice walked me through, checking his pulse thready and irregular and positioning him on his side. I grabbed the throw pillow from the porch swing, tucking it under his head, my hands shaking so violently I could barely manage it. The rain had picked up, splattering us both, mixing with the tears I didn't realize were streaming down my face. 7 minutes. That's what they said. But it felt like 7 hours. I held Aaron's hand, whispering prayers I hadn't said since Richard's funeral, watching his chest for each laboured rise and fall. His lips had taken on a bluish tinge that sent ice through my veins. The sirens finally wailed down our quiet street, and 2 paramedics jogged up with a stretcher. They moved with practiced efficiency, checking vitals, starting an IV, asking me rapid-fire questions. Any allergies, current medications? Drug use? No, nothing. He's healthy. He runs marathons, for God's sake. My voice cracked. He just kept saying something about Lena, about checking a locked drawer. They were loading him into the ambulance when Lena's white SUV screeched into my driveway, blocking half the street. She burst out, her usually perfect blonde bob dishevelled, her designer workout clothes pristine as always, despite her apparent panic. What happened? What did you do? She pushed past me toward the ambulance, then whirled around, her green eyes accusatory. "Did you give him something?" "You're always pushing those old pain medications from Richard's back surgery." The accusation hit like a slap. I haven't given him anything. He just showed up and collapsed. "You were the only one here." Her voice carried down the street, drawing neighbors to their windows. Mrs. Patterson from across the way stepped onto her porch. "The paramedics need to know, did you give him anything? Any of your pills?" "Ma'am, we need to go," one of the paramedics interrupted. But Lena had already planted her seed. I saw the way they looked at me, a flash of suspicion crossing their faces. "I'm riding with him," Lena declared, climbing into the ambulance. She glanced back at me, and for just a moment, something flickered across her face. Not worry, not fear. Something else entirely. "You should follow in your car, if you're feeling up to it." The doors slammed shut, and the ambulance pulled away, leaving me standing in my driveway, rain soaking through my cardigan. My hand went unconsciously to my pocket, where Richard's old keyring still lived a habit I'd never broken. Among them was a small brass key I hadn't thought about in years. The locked drawer, Richard's old filing cabinet in his study, the one I'd never cleared out because it hurt too much to sort through his things. Aaron's words echoed in my mind. Don't trust Lena. The drive to Riverview General gave me too much time to think about the cracks I'd been spackling over for years, pretending they were just settling, not structural damage. It started small, the way these things always do, 3 years ago, right after Aaron married Lena. She'd shown up at my door while I was at my book club. Aaron gave her his key, she said, because she wanted to surprise me by organizing my pantry. I came home to find all my mother's vintage canisters replaced with matching plastic containers from some home goods store. "Much more practical," she'd chirped, not noticing or not caring that she'd thrown away pieces of my family history. Then came the locks. Last summer. I returned from visiting my sister in Portland to find my front door wouldn't open. Lena had upgraded my security system while I was gone for my safety. She insisted. She programmed the new smart lock herself, keeping the master code. "In case of emergencies," she'd said, patting my hand like I was a child. Aaron just stood there, trapped in that horrible space between wife and mother, mumbling. "It's just for a few days. Mom, until you learn the system." The credit card incident should have been my wake-up call. 6 months ago. Lena borrowed my Visa to buy groceries for a family dinner she was hosting at my house. Somehow that turned into her keeping the card for 2 weeks. Charges popping up for everything from gas to a $500 hair appointment. When I finally asked for it back, she laughed that tinkling, dismissive laugh and said, "Oh, Evelyn, I completely forgot I had it. Aaron will reimburse you." He did. Of course. But the violation lingered like a bruise. I'd become the worst kind of mother, the one who enables through silence. Every time Aaron looked exhausted, every time he rubbed his temples during Sunday dinner while Lena chattered about her latest event planning triumph, I said nothing. When he lost 15 pounds in 2 months, I made his favorite casseroles instead of asking hard questions. When Lena insisted they needed to borrow $8,000 for her business venture, and Aaron's hands shook as he asked me, I wrote the check without meeting his eyes. The hospital parking garage was nearly full. I circled up to the 4th level, my mind replaying every warning sign I'd ignored. The way Lena always prepared Aaron's protein shakes, never letting him make his own. How she'd started bringing those vitamin bottles to family dinners, insisting Aaron needed them for his demanding job. The way she'd hover when he took them, watching until he swallowed. In the emergency room, I found them in Bay 7. Aaron was hooked to monitors, their beeping creating a rhythm that made my chest tight. His colour was better, but his eyes remained closed. Lena sat in the visitor's chair, scrolling through her phone, her face composed into an expression of concern that didn't reach her eyes. "The doctor says it's some kind of electrolyte imbalance," she said without looking up. "Probably from overtraining for that marathon. You know how he pushes himself." "He hasn't been training," I said quietly. "He told me last week he'd stopped running. Said he's been too tired." Lena's thumb paused over her screen. "Well, he must have meant cut back, not stopped. You know how you sometimes misunderstand things. Evelyn." There it was, that gentle gaslighting she'd perfected. Make me doubt my own memory, my own conversations with my son. I'd let it work too many times before, backing down, questioning myself. Not today. "What was in those vitamins you've been giving him?" She looked up then, her green eyes sharp. "The same supplements everyone takes. B complex, vitamin D, magnesium. Are you seriously trying to blame me for taking care of my husband's health?" "I'm trying to understand why my healthy son collapsed on my porch." "Maybe you should ask yourself what you fed him last time he visited, or what medications you might have accidentally mixed up." Her voice rose just enough for the nurse at the station to glance over. "Everyone knows you've been struggling since Richard died. Depression, confusion. It's normal at your age." At my age. I was 61, not 90. I'd managed the billing department at Riverview Medical for 15 years before retiring. I could read a Medicare form in my sleep and spot a coding error from across the room. My mind was sharp enough to see exactly what she was doing. "I think I'll wait in the waiting room," I said, standing. "Let me know when he wakes up." As I walked away, I heard her on the phone, her voice carrying just far enough. "Yes, she's here." "No, she seems very confused. I'm worried about her being alone in that big house." The familiar burn of suppressed rage climbed my throat. 3 years of swallowing my words, of choosing peace over truth, of letting her reshape reality until I almost believed her version myself. Aaron's whispered warning played on repeat in my mind. Don't trust Lena. For the first time in 3 years, I wouldn't. The house felt different when I returned, violated somehow. Even though nothing had been moved, I went straight to Richard's study, my wet shoes squeaking on the hardwood. The brass key turned in the filing cabinet's lock with a click that seemed to echo. The drawer was organized in Richard's meticulous way, hanging folders labeled in his blocky handwriting. But there was a manila envelope in front, unsealed, that I'd never seen before. Aaron must have put it here, inside. My stomach turned to ice. Credit card statements in Lena's name showed a debt of $47,000. Event planning supplies, she'd probably claim. But the charges told a different story: designer clothing, spa packages, a weekend at a resort in Napa. The dates went back 2 years, predating her business by 6 months. Behind those, a glossy brochure for preferred life insurance caught my eye. Fast track payout, death, benefits in as little as 30 days. Someone had circled this in red pen. Clipped to it was a policy application, dated just 3 weeks ago. Policyholder Aaron Mercer. Beneficiary Lena Whitmore Mercer. Death benefit $1.5 million. The signature looked like Aaron's, but something was off. The A was too sharp, the N too cramped. My hands shook as I photographed each document with my phone. At the bottom of the envelope, I found a sticky note in Aaron's handwriting. "Mum, if something happens, check the kitchen camera footage from last month. Password is Dad's birthday." The kitchen camera. Aaron had installed it 6 months ago when I'd mentioned packages going missing. I'd forgotten about it entirely, that little white dome that looked like a smoke detector. I pulled up the app on my phone, typing in Richard's birthday, 03151963. The footage went back 30 days. I scrolled to last month, my heart hammering. There she was, Lena, letting herself in at 2:43 p. on a Tuesday. I'd been at my dental appointment. She knew my schedule better than I did. The video showed her going straight to my medicine cabinet, examining bottles, taking photos of labels, then to the kitchen, where she pulled something from her purse, a small orange bottle. She emptied capsules onto my counter, pulled them apart, sprinkled white powder from a baggie, then carefully reassembled them. The precision was chilling. She placed the bottle in my vitamin drawer, right next to my daily supplements. I yanked open the drawer. There it was. Focus Max Natural Energy Booster. I didn't remember buying it, but Lena had been so helpful lately, stocking my kitchen with healthier options. The label looked professional, but when I held it to the light, I could see where a previous label had been removed, leaving sticky residue. I grabbed a sandwich bag and dropped the bottle inside, careful not to touch it directly, some crime show knowledge finally proving useful. The smell when I opened it was wrong, medicinal and bitter under the citrus scent. My phone buzzed. A text from Lena. "Aaron's awake. Where are you? This is a time for family." Family. She'd been poisoning my son, and she dared to talk about family. I drove back to the hospital with the evidence in my purse, my mind racing through the timeline. The insurance policy 3 weeks ago, the vitamin bottle appearing in my kitchen, Aaron getting sicker, more tired. His symptoms escalating whenever he spent time at my house, because that's when Lena made sure he took his vitamins from my drawer, the ones she'd doctored. If he died at my house, from vitamins in my drawer, who would they blame? The confused, elderly mother who'd already mixed up medications once before, except I hadn't. That story about Richard's old pain pills was a complete fabrication, but Lena had repeated it so often, even I'd started to wonder if I'd forgotten something. Back in the emergency room, Aaron was sitting up, still pale but alert. Lena stood beside him, her hand possessively on his shoulder. "Mom," he said, his voice hoarse. "I'm sorry about scaring you." "Don't apologize," I said, keeping my voice steady. "How are you feeling?" "Better. Tired. The doctor says my potassium was dangerously low, and I had some kind of reaction to something." His eyes met mine, and I saw the message there he knew. "Probably just overwork," Lena said quickly. "We should focus on getting you healthy. Maybe you should stay with your mother for a few days. Let her take care of you." Her smile was practiced, concerned wife playing her part. "I'll bring those vitamin supplements you've been taking. The doctor said you should continue them." "No," Aaron said, the word sharp enough to make her flinch. "No more vitamins." "But honey?" I said no. "Lena?" The way she looked at him then, just for a second, before she rearranged her face back into concern, it was pure calculation. She was already planning her next move. "I should go home and get some rest," I said, standing. Call me if you need anything. As I left, I heard Lena say, Your mother seems overwhelmed. Maybe we should look into some help for her. The trap was closing, but she didn't know I'd already found the spring. The next morning, I sat across from Dr. Patel in the emergency department, my years of medical billing experience finally serving a purpose beyond insurance codes. I knew exactly which questions to ask. The potassium deficiency, I said, pulling out my notebook. Could it be caused by diuretics? Dr. Patel's eyebrows rose slightly. That's a very specific question. Yes, loop diuretics can cause severe hypokalemia. Why do you ask? My son doesn't take diuretics. But what if someone was giving him something that acted like one hidden in supplements? The doctor leaned back, studying me. Mrs. Mercer. That would be poisoning. Yes. I showed him a photo of the Focus Max bottle on my phone. This appeared in my kitchen recently. My son only took these when visiting me. His symptoms always worsened after Sunday dinners at my house. Do you still have the bottle? In my purse, in a sealed bag. I haven't touched it directly. Dr. Patel was quiet for a moment. There are certain compounds, herbal diuretics mixed with stimulants that could cause these symptoms, especially if combined with potassium-depleting substances. The cardiac arrhythmia your son experienced, it's consistent with that kind of interaction. Would you be willing to document that? The possibility. He nodded slowly. I'll note it in his chart. And Mrs. Mercer. Your son's smartwatch data could be useful. Many of them track heart rate patterns. Back home, I opened Aaron's health app on my laptop he'd given me access last year when he'd had the flu. Forgot to revoke it. The data made my blood run cold. His resting heart rate had been climbing steadily for 3 weeks. The pattern was clear spikes on Sundays and Mondays, gradual decreases through the week, then spiking again. Sunday dinners. The vitamins from my drawer that Lena insisted he take. The app showed more irregular heart rhythms starting 10 days ago, getting progressively worse. Sleep disturbances. His activity level dropping from running 5 miles daily to barely walking 1,000 steps. All meticulously recorded by the device on his wrist. I switched to his shared calendar. There it was. Life insurance medical exam 3 weeks ago, right before his symptoms started. The exam he needed to pass for that $1.5 million policy. My banking app was next. I'd given Aaron access to transfer money for emergencies, a mother's perpetual worry. But the transaction history showed ATM withdrawals I didn't make. 500 here, 300 there. Always on days when I had standing appointments, hair salon, book club, grief support group. Lena knew my schedule. The withdrawals matched dates on her credit card payments. Tiny dents in that massive debt. The doorbell rang, startling me. Through the peephole, I saw Lena, holding a casserole dish and wearing her concerned daughter-in-law mask. I opened the door but didn't invite her in. Lena. I brought dinner? Aaron's favorite chicken and rice casserole. She tried to step forward, but I blocked the doorway. Evelyn, we need to talk about Aaron's care. He's being discharged tomorrow, and obviously he can't come back to your house. Not after what happened. What exactly happened? Lena. You know what happened. Those supplements you gave him. The Focus Max vitamins, the ones you put in my drawer. I watched her face carefully. A micro-expression surprise, quickly suppressed. I don't know what you're talking about. You're confused again. She pulled out her phone. I've been documenting these episodes. Evelyn. The paranoid accusations. The memory lapses. I'm worried about you. Document this, I said, holding up my phone with the kitchen camera footage. Her face went white as she watched herself doctoring the capsules. She recovered quickly. Too quickly. That's not me. Someone who looks similar, maybe. But it's time-stamped. Lena, 2:43 September 15th? You knew I had a dental cleaning. Videos can be faked. Everyone knows that. But her knuckles were white where she gripped the casserole dish. You're having some kind of breakdown. Evelyn, first you poison Aaron. Now you're manufacturing evidence. Like you manufactured that insurance policy, the one where you forged his signature. The casserole dish slipped, just an inch. She caught it, but I saw the crack in her composure. I should go, she said, backing away. Aaron needs me, his real family. He asked you not to come. I lied, but believably. He wants space. The mask finally slipped completely. You vindictive old bitch. You've been against us from the start. Aaron was finally going to be worth something. And you... She stopped, realizing what she'd said. Worth something. $1.5 million worth. Leave the casserole, I said calmly. I'll have it tested along with the vitamins. She turned and walked to her car, still carrying the dish. As she drove away, I noticed my neighbour, Mr. Duffy, trimming his hedge. He'd been trimming the same spot for 10 minutes, watching everything. Interesting visitor, he said, walking over. 20 years as a cop had given him instincts he couldn't retire. Very interesting. I agreed, then made a decision. Tom, I might need some advice about preserving evidence. His eyes sharpened. Happy to help. Evelyn, why don't you come over for coffee? Bring whatever you need advice about. I gathered the vitamins, the documents, and my phone, feeling like I was finally fighting back instead of just enduring. 2 weeks later, the Maple Falls harvest night was all anyone could talk about. Lena had positioned herself as the event's shining star, the devoted wife sacrificing her time to raise money for the children's hospital despite her husband's recent health scare. The sympathy played beautifully into her hands. I stood in the community center's main hall, watching her direct volunteers with practiced efficiency. She wore a designer dress that probably cost more than most people's mortgage payments, her smile never wavering as she arranged auction items on display tables. The centerpiece of her triumph, a wellness package sponsored by Preferred Life Insurance, complete with a consultation about protecting your family's future. Mrs. Mercer, she called out, loud enough for everyone to hear. I didn't expect to see you here. Are you feeling well enough to be out? The implication hung in the air. The confused elderly woman who'd nearly killed her own son shouldn't be wandering around unsupervised. Several volunteers glanced over with concern. I wouldn't miss it, I said pleasantly. I volunteered to handle the dessert table. You know how I love to bake. Her smile tightened. That's so sweet. But we have professionals handling the food. We can't risk any mistakes. Oh, I cleared it with the committee weeks ago, before you took over as coordinator. I held up my volunteer badge, the one issued before she'd swooped in to claim control of the event. I'll just be setting up the display. No actual food preparation. She couldn't argue without seeming petty, but I saw the calculation in her eyes. She'd have someone watching me all night. Perfect. Mr. Duffy had been invaluable. His advice was simple: document everything. maintain chain of custody, and never be alone with evidence. He'd also mentioned something interesting. His son worked in IT and had taught him about small cameras, the kind that looked like buttons or pins. I adjusted the vintage brooch on my cardigan, the one Richard had given me for our 30th anniversary. Now it held a tiny camera with 3 hours of recording capacity, purchased with cash from a store 2 towns over. The dessert table was strategically positioned with a clear view of the bar area where Lena mixed her special health drinks for what she called VIP supporters. Evelyn. Margaret Hamilton from the library waved me over. I heard about Aaron. How's he doing? Much better. Thank you. Still weak, but recovering. I arranged doilies on the table, each movement deliberate and visible to anyone watching. Nothing suspicious about a grandmother fussing over presentation. Lena's been so strong through all this, Margaret continued. She was just telling us about the insurance consultation she arranged. So thoughtful. Making sure Aaron's protected if anything happens to her. If anything happens to her. The reversal was breathtaking. At 7:30 p.m., the event began in earnest. The hall filled with Maple Falls elite, checkbooks at the ready. Lena worked the room like a conductor with an orchestra, touching arms, laughing at jokes, occasionally dabbing at her eyes when mentioning Aaron's close call. I watched her prepare drinks at the bar, noting her routine. She had a special shaker she'd brought from home for the signature cocktail she'd created. But twice. I saw her pour something into glasses from a small bottle in her purse before adding the mixed drink on top. Both times. She handed these special drinks to older attendees, Mrs. Chen, who'd recently updated her will, Mr. Garrison, whose wife had died last year, leaving him a substantial estate. My phone buzzed. Aaron, Mum. Where are you? Harvest night. Dessert table duty. Lena's there. Be careful. I'm always careful, sweetheart. At 8:45, Lena took the microphone for the auction. She stood at the podium, radiant in the spotlight, playing the gracious hostess. Behind her, a projection screen showed photos of past charity recipients, sick children the hospital had helped. Before we begin, she said, her voice carrying perfectly through the sound system, I want to thank everyone for their support during our family's recent difficult time. My mother-in-law, Evelyn, is even here tonight, despite everything. She gestured toward me, and heads turned. It takes courage to face the community after such an incident. The implications slithered through the crowd. Poor Lena, dealing with a dangerous mother-in-law but too gracious to say it outright. I smiled and waved, playing the oblivious elder she'd cast me as, let her think she was winning. Now, Lena continued, let's start the bidding with our premier item, the preferred life insurance wellness package, including a comprehensive family protection plan consultation. As paddles rose and bids flew, I noticed something. The preferred life representative at table 12 kept checking his phone, frowning at Lena, typing rapidly. He'd been doing it all night, ever since she'd started her presentation about protecting your loved ones from unexpected tragedies. I slipped my phone out and sent Mr. Duffy a text. Table 12, insurance rep. Something's wrong. His response was immediate. Already on it. He's been asking questions about recent policy applications. The auction continued, Lena's confidence growing with each item sold. She didn't notice the insurance representative leaving his table, walking toward the back of the room where Mr. Duffy just happened to be standing by the exit. She didn't notice, but I did. And I made sure my brooch camera caught it all. The dessert table gave me the perfect vantage point for what came next. At 9:15, I watched Lena prepare another special drink, this time for herself, or so it seemed. She made a show of it, laughing with supporters about needing liquid courage for the final auction items. "Mrs. Whitmore Mercer," I called out, walking over with a small plate. "You must try the lemon bars. Margaret Hamilton made them specially for tonight." She turned, drink in hand, her smile razor-sharp. How thoughtful. But I'm watching my figure. "Oh, but you've been working so hard. Surely you can toast your own success." I gestured to her untouched drink. "Unless you don't actually drink what you serve." Several people were watching now. The trap was simple refuse, the drink she'd just made publicly, or consume it and prove it was safe. Her fingers tightened on the glass. "Of course I do," she said, but didn't lift it to her lips. "Wonderful. Then you won't mind if we toast together." I picked up an unopened water bottle from the bar, making sure everyone could see the sealed cap. To family. She had to drink then, surrounded by watching eyes. She took the smallest possible sip, barely wetting her lips. I made note of which glass she'd used and watched where she set it down. 20 minutes later, when she was pulled away to handle a problem with the sound system, I did something that would have horrified my mother. I stole, using a napkin. I carefully picked up Lena's lipstick-marked glass and slipped it into a large Ziploc bag I'd hidden behind the coffee urn. Her fingerprints and DNA, preserved perfectly. Mr. Duffy appeared at my elbow, casually reaching for a cookie. "Smart thinking," he murmured. "Also, you'll want to check the dumpster out back tomorrow morning. I saw someone throw away a bag earlier, acting nervous." "Tom, I can't thank you enough." "Don't thank me yet. That insurance fellow, he's been flagging policies. Seems several recent applications have irregularities. Signatures that don't match. Medical exams that were never properly completed." The pieces were falling into place. Lena hadn't just targeted Aaron. This was bigger. A pattern of attempted fraud that would unravel once someone started pulling threads. At 10 p. I excused myself to use the restroom, but went to the kitchen instead. The garbage bags from prep work were still there, waiting to be taken to the dumpster. I photographed everything, then carefully opened the bag I'd seen Lena near earlier. Inside, wrapped in paper towels, an empty bottle of liquid potassium supplement and another of prescription diuretics. The label carefully peeled off, but the pharmacy number still visible. My phone buzzed. "Aaron, getting discharged tomorrow. Staying with you if that's okay." "Of course. Your room is ready." Another text. "Found something. Email from L to insurance agent. Forwarding now." The email popped up immediately. Lena had written to the preferred life agent 3 weeks ago. Urgent need to expedite approval. Husband's health declining rapidly. Previous conditions not disclosed on application as discussed. Please process before next medical review. Willing to increase premium for fast-track service. Previous conditions. Aaron had none. But if he'd died from undisclosed heart problems, the policy might have been contested unless it was already fully approved and past the contestability period. She'd been racing against time, needing him dead after the policy cleared, but before any routine review might catch the fraud. I slipped back into the main hall as Lena announced the evening's total $43,000 raised. The crowd erupted in applause. She stood there glowing, accepting congratulations, playing the perfect community leader. "One more thing," she said into the microphone. "I want to announce that my husband and I are committed to matching 10% of tonight's total from our personal funds." More applause, but I saw her hand shake slightly. $4,000 they didn't have, promised publicly. The walls were closing in on her finances, making Aaron's life insurance even more critical. I pulled out my phone and created a new folder, Evidence. Into it went everything: photos, videos, emails, the doorbell camera footage. Then I shared it with 3 people: Aaron, Mr. Duffy, and my lawyer, whom I'd quietly consulted that morning. Looking up, I caught Lena staring at me from across the room. For a moment, our eyes locked, and I saw something flicker there, not suspicion, but recognition. She knew I wasn't the confused old woman she'd painted me as, but she still thought she was smarter, still believed her performance would carry the day. The brooch camera was still recording as she walked over to me, her heels clicking on the floor like a countdown. "Evelyn," she said sweetly, though her eyes were arctic. "You look tired. Should I call someone to drive you home?" "I'm perfectly fine, dear. In fact, I've never seen things more clearly." Her smile faltered just a fraction. "Well, don't overdo it. We wouldn't want another incident." "No," I agreed. "We certainly wouldn't. One poisoning in the family is quite enough." The word poisoning hung between us like a loaded gun. Around us, the celebration continued, but in our small bubble, the air crackled with unspoken threats. "Careful, Evelyn," she whispered, leaning closer. "Confused old women can have terrible accidents." I smiled my sweetest grandmother smile. "So can greedy young women who underestimate their mothers-in-law." The auction was winding down, but I had one final card to play. At 10:30 p.m., as Lena prepared for her closing remarks, I approached the event's tech coordinator, a young man named Bradley, who'd helped set up the projection system. "Bradley, I have a small presentation about the dessert table donors. Would you mind queuing it up? Just 2 minutes." "I promise." He looked uncertain. "Mrs. Whitmore Mercer didn't mention—" "Oh, she's been so busy. I cleared it with the committee weeks ago." I handed him my flash drive, the one I'd prepared that afternoon. Right after her closing remarks would be perfect. Lena took the podium for final thanks, her voice warm with false modesty. Behind her, the screen showed the event logo. She was midway through acknowledging sponsors when the display changed. The first image appeared doorbell camera footage, time-stamped, showing Lena entering my house. Then another, and another. A montage of unauthorized entries, each one dated and timed when I was away. "What is this?" Lena spun around, her face draining of color. The video shifted to the kitchen camera footage crystal clear, despite the distance showing her doctoring the vitamins. The room went silent, except for the hum of the projection system. "Turn it off," she commanded. But Bradley seemed frozen at the control panel. The next slide appeared the preferred life insurance policy application, Aaron's signature clearly visible. Then, side by side, Aaron's actual signature from his driver's license. Even from across the room, the forgery was obvious. I stepped forward, my voice carrying clearly without a microphone. 3 weeks ago, my son collapsed on my porch. His last words before losing consciousness were, "Don't trust Lena. Check the locked drawer." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Lena grabbed for the microphone. This is ridiculous. She's having some kind of breakdown. In that drawer, I continued, walking toward the podium, I found evidence of $47,000 in hidden debt, a life insurance policy my son never signed, and instructions to check our kitchen camera, where we recorded this. The screen showed the enhanced footage of Lena tampering with the vitamins, now zoomed in on her hands as she carefully added white powder to the capsules. Those vitamins nearly killed my son. His potassium dropped so low his heart stopped twice in the ambulance. My voice broke slightly, genuine emotion breaking through. If he'd died, the grieving widow would have collected $1.5 million. These are lies. Lena's composure finally cracked completely. Fabricated evidence. She's senile. Everyone knows it. The hospital has Aaron's blood work, I said. The vitamins have been sent for testing. The insurance company has already flagged the policy for fraud investigation. I turned to address the room. How many others here were offered special vitamins by Mrs. Whitmore Mercer? How many were encouraged to update their insurance policies through her preferred provider? Mrs. Patterson from my street stood up slowly. She gave me energy supplements last month, said they'd help with my arthritis. Mr. Garrison, the widower, was checking his phone. I have an email here from Lena about expediting my life insurance application. She said it was urgent because of my age. The preferred life representative I'd noticed earlier stepped out of the shadows. Ma'am, I'm going to need you to come with me. We have questions about multiple policy applications. Don't touch me. Lena backed away, stumbling in her heels. This is harassment. I'll sue every one of you. That's when Mr. Duffy made his entrance, accompanied by two uniformed officers I recognized from the Maple Falls Police Department. He'd made some calls after reviewing my evidence folder. Mrs. Whitmore Mercer, Officer Reynolds said calmly. We need you to come to the station for questioning regarding attempted insurance fraud and assault. Assault? She laughed, high and hysterical. No one was assaulted. Poisoning is assault with a deadly weapon in Oregon, Mr. Duffy said quietly. Attempted murder if intent can be proven. The room was dead silent now, all eyes on the drama unfolding at the podium. The projection screen still showed the insurance documents, Lena's own email about expediting due to Aaron's declining health, written before she'd started poisoning him. You can't prove anything? She hissed at me. It's all circumstantial. That's when I pulled out the glass in the evidence bag. Your fingerprints and DNA from tonight? The vitamins have your fingerprints too. Mr. Duffy showed me how to preserve them properly. The pharmacy where you bought the diuretics has security footage. The bank has records of ATM withdrawals from my account on days you knew I was out. Her face went from pale to grey. I want a lawyer. That's your right, Officer Reynolds said, stepping forward. Lena Whitmore Mercer, you're under arrest for attempted murder, insurance fraud, and financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult. I'm not vulnerable, I protested, then realized the legal classification actually helped the case. As Reynolds read Lena her rights, she suddenly lunged toward me, her mask completely gone. He was supposed to be worth something. All those years of his pathetic devotion, his boring job, his mother hovering around. I deserved that money. I earned it. Officer Reynolds caught her arm, and the click of handcuffs echoed through the silent hall. The entire room seemed to exhale collectively. The handcuffs clicked shut around Lena's wrists, and the sound seemed to echo through the community center like a judge's gavel. under the harsh stage lights. Her perfect makeup was streaked, her carefully styled hair disheveled from her attempted lunge at me. The woman who'd orchestrated everything with such cold precision was finally exposed. "I want everyone to hear this," she snarled, her voice carrying across the silent hall. I only wanted what I deserved. 3 years of pretending to care about his boring stories, his pathetic mother, that insipid child. "That's enough," Officer Reynolds said firmly, but Lena wasn't finished. "You think you've won? Evelyn." She laughed, bitter and sharp. "Aaron's nothing without me. He'll come crawling back. He always does." My phone vibrated in my pocket. I pulled it out to see a message from Aaron. "Watching the live stream from the hospital. Thank you for believing me." Live stream. I looked up and noticed Bradley still at the tech station, his phone propped up and recording. The entire confrontation had been broadcast on the event's Facebook page. 2,000 viewers and climbing. "Actually," I said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Aaron's the one who gathered half this evidence. The insurance documents, the email trails, even setting up the kitchen camera. He knew something was wrong, but needed proof. He just couldn't do it alone while being slowly poisoned." Lena's face contorted. "He wouldn't. He's too weak." "My son survived what you did to him. That makes him stronger than you'll ever be." As the officers led her toward the exit, she made one last attempt at control. "The debt's all in Aaron's name too. Community property. He'll be bankrupt without me." Mr. Duffy stepped forward. "Actually, forensic accounting should prove interesting. Those signatures on the credit applications look remarkably similar to the insurance forgery." The doors closed behind them, and the room erupted. People rushed toward me, some offering support, others asking questions, many apologizing for believing Lena's portrayal of me as a confused old woman. Margaret Hamilton hugged me tight. "Evelyn, we should have seen it. Should have helped." "You couldn't have known," I said, though part of me wondered how many red flags we all ignore for the sake of politeness. My phone rang. Aaron. "Mom." His voice was stronger than it had been in weeks. "I'm watching everything. The nurse is here. My vitals are better than they've been in a month. It's like my body knew it was finally safe." "Come home tomorrow," I said. "Your real home." "About that, Mom. I need to tell you something. I've been documenting everything for weeks. There's more evidence hidden at the house. I was scared if I confronted her directly. She'd just increased the dose." My brilliant, brave son. "We'll handle it all together." The preferred life representative approached me quietly. "Mrs. Mercer, the company will be pursuing criminal charges for insurance fraud. We'll need your cooperation." "You'll have it." As the crowd began to disperse, Mr. Duffy walked me to my car. "You did good. Evelyn, Richard would be proud. I just did what any mother would do." "No," he said firmly. "You did what a smart, capable woman would do. Don't sell yourself short." At home, I sat in Richard's old study, surrounded by the evidence that had saved my son's life. The brass key that had unlocked the truth sat on the desk, catching the lamplight. My phone buzzed with another message from Aaron, this time a photo from his hospital bed. He was holding up his hand, his wedding ring absent from his finger. "Already started divorce papers." The caption read, "Gracie is staying with Mom's sister. She's safe." Gracie. My granddaughter had been Lena's tool for manipulation, but she was also an innocent child who deserved better. We'd figure that out too, as a family. 3 days later, the local news ran the story. Maple Falls woman arrested in attempted murder for insurance plot. The doorbell camera footage had gone viral, shared thousands of times as a cautionary tale. Lena was being held without bail, deemed a flight risk after investigators found she'd been researching countries without extradition treaties. Aaron moved back home temporarily, needing time to heal both physically and emotionally. We spent quiet mornings on the porch where he'd collapsed, reclaiming the space from that horrible memory. His color returned slowly, his strength building each day without poison coursing through his system. I knew something was wrong, he told me one morning. But she made me doubt myself constantly, said I was paranoid, that I was imagining things. That's what they do, I said. Make you question your own reality until you can't trust your own judgment. How did you stay so clear? I thought about it. I almost didn't. But when you collapsed, when you warned me, everything crystallized. A mother's instinct. Maybe. Or maybe just finally having permission to trust what I'd been seeing all along. The prosecutor called that afternoon, with the evidence we'd collected, plus testimony from other potential victims. Lena was facing 25 to life. The insurance fraud alone carried a 15-year sentence. As I hung up, I looked at the family photo on my desk. Richard, Aaron, and me at Aaron's college graduation. We'd been so proud, so full of hope for his future. That future had almost been stolen by someone who saw him not as a person, but as a payday. The doorbell rang one last time. Aaron answered it, and I heard Gracie's voice, "Daddy, Grandma, Evelyn." She ran into my arms, and I held her tight. Whatever happened next, we'd face it as a family, a real family built on love, not manipulation. The house felt warm again, filled with life instead of secrets. The vitamins tested positive for a dangerous combination of prescription diuretics and potassium-depleting compounds. The forensic accountant found 17 forged documents. Lena Whitmore Mercer would never hurt anyone again. My son was alive. My granddaughter was safe. And I'd never again doubt my instincts when someone tells me not to trust. Sometimes the most powerful revenge isn't about destroying someone. It's about revealing exactly who they are and letting the truth do the rest. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Please share in the comments below so we can connect. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and let me know your thoughts on this tale of a mother's instinct and the power of truth. Your support means everything, and I look forward to sharing more stories with you soon.